let's talk materials of what we need. So you're going to need, of course, something to work on. Right here, I have a canvas board that I'm working with. And this is our inspiration. We have a lighthouse, a beacon of hope on our adventure in the summer. Several colors here. You can use watercolor or acrylic paints like I have here. And the colors we're using are a black color. This one particular is a little glossy. This turquoise color, which is a matte craft acrylic paint. I have some white, an overload of orange and some dark navy blue. And we're going to work to mix these colors with some brushes here. You want to have two to three sizes for the background, and possibly a sponge brush if you have clothes, or you can also use a little piece of paper towel to make like a little bit of a scrunching sponge. But I have a sponge here. I have a thin liner brush. And I have a 1/4 inch flat angle brush to get us in those nice sharp little corners. And then of course, some paper towels, a cup of water nearby to clean our brushes, and a pencil to sketch with. So the sketch, pretty simple, pretty easy to work with. And we're gonna get started with Enzie's throwing up some information in the chat too. If you need the Crestwood Library for anything, please check that out. And of course, visit ypl.org for other events and things going on, all the happenings happening at all the libraries in Yonkers, especially Crestwood. So thank you to the NORC and thank you to Yonkers Public Library for doing things like this. And we're going to get started with our inspiration. I have this canvas board. We're going to come about 1/3 up from the bottom of our picture. So I'm going to just do 2 dots to kind of gauge 1/3 of the way up. So I have 1 dot here, 1 dot here, and I'm kind of going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use the edge of my canvas to help make a straight line easier. But if you have a ruler or another piece of paper near, you want to kind of cheat and make a straight line, you can do that. So about 1/3 up, we're making a horizon line. And then alongside this horizon line, I'm just going to make a little bump. And it's going to start below, right at the center and a little bit below our horizon line. And we're going to work our way to a bumpy kind of angle going up. So it starts about halfway. It's our halfway point, a little bit below the line. And here we go, creating a little bit of a rocky kind of edge for our lighthouse here. Then we're going to create another rocky bottom that will now move off towards the page. So now we have our lighthouse setting happening. We're setting it off to the right. And then we're going to kind of cut off and create a little bit of a rocky edge here. Starts above that horizon line and comes across just like so. Kind of taking over that corner like so. And now the hardest part for some people would be to create this lighthouse. It looks really intimidating because of all the angles and the lines and such, but really that's really what it is. If you see a lot of recognizable shapes, we have some squares here, we have a square here, we have a rectangle, we have kind of an elonged rectangle, but it kind of tapers off. So let's kind of use our dot method to space out this picture. So let me bring you a little closer, see if we can get in on the fun a little better. There we are. So you can kind of see, I'm going to take a dot here and a dot here. So that's about 3 fingers width that we're going to create, about 3 fingers width for this lighthouse. So I'm taking 2 dots on the top of this little rocky system here, taking 2 dots, and then I'm going to kind of come inward a little bit and decide how tall I want my lighthouse and create 2 dots there. And then just slowly sketch at an angle coming down and connect the dots. Short strokes, angled, and it's going to get a little bit of a rectangle door here, right in the center, and right above that, almost to the top, we're going to put another window. Now you can get creative and add more windows, by making like a rectangle off to the side here and there, but for this class's demonstration, we'll keep it simple. But of course, I always encourage creativity in making the picture your own. We're going to top off the lighthouse here and clean up any of these extra lines. And then we're just going to kind of create this like angled, like their arms are being raised. So 2 angled lines going up. And then we're just going to come across like so. And then will just be a series of rectangles and squares. So for drawing purposes, we're going to create a rectangle. And then when it comes to the paint, so the rectangle is going to be a little bit smaller than the width of the lighthouse. So this is just going to be a plain rectangle as a sketch, but when we paint it, we're going to fill in the rectangle black and then highlight with some white. And then we'll top it off with 3 lines. So we're kind of doing smaller rectangles above. And now we're topping off the rest like so. A little bit of a dome shape. And my top got cut off because I got adventurous with this. But of course, this is an inspiration. It doesn't have to be exactly like the picture drawn. You can do your own version. And then the other details that you see, the shadows and such, will happen when you do the highlights. So we have our lighthouse on the page. That is the sketch. Very simple. If you want to make adjustments and kind of make the lighthouse a little shorter, you can. That way you can get that little tower top, whatever you prefer. But we're basically good to go for our sketch. So again, for the colors that we're using, and I'm going to pour another different navy blue because mine got attacked by some orange. Let's throw a little bit more of this navy blue here. And we're going to get started painting the lighthouse white. Well, the canvas is already white. Some people think, okay, painting the lighthouse white, why? Well, just adding to the base coat of the picture. So with our angled brush, and I'm going to put the paint kind of off here. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in with the white first. And so kind of leaning the brush, using that tip of the angle to kind of cut into the corners. And I'm not painting over our windows. I'm just creating a base layer of white for my lighthouse. And if you're working with acrylics, you're basically going to just leave this part blank. And if you have colored pencils, same thing. You're just going to leave this area blank. I'm just throwing on this little bit of a base coat, just like so. Just that little bit of white. No muss, no fuss. And then we're just going to start building our background. Same angled brush. We're going to start off in the corner here, and it's just going to be a dip into the acrylic and swiping off into the corner, loading the brush and loading the paint a good ways. So you just have that corner bit figured out. Now I do have some paper towel nearby. I'm going to nip off a corner of this paper towel. And you can kind of scrunch. So you see you have like a lot of texture once it's scrunched. And you can use it as a spongy kind of texture. Or you can use an actual sponge and kind of come in. And if you think, oh, that looks still a little too light, you just come in with some more paint. And I like to brush the paint on and then add texture because you have more control. A lot of times, depending on the sponge, it can absorb too much paint and then you're getting globs versus this kind of wish-wash texture. So I'm gonna just alternate. I like the way the paper towel like kind of absorbs and makes it a little white, so it looks a little misty because that's what we're trying to recreate here with the inspiration. Some misty bits splashing up and glowing in the sky. So we have that section. I'm going to clean my angled brush and then introduce some of that turquoise color. So now we'll take that angled brush and softly introduce, and I want to say it kind of looks like some lines. So we're going to trickle it down, trickle it down, trickle it down here. And we're just putting some paint on here, and then we're going to start manipulating it with our sponge and paper towel technique. So again, kind of letting those two colors melt together by pressing down. And I'm not even cleaning this tissue paper. I'm just going to start at the edge where the blue and that teal kind of meet. And just work in. So it gives that mixed, misty texture. So I have a lot of blue on my brush, and I really want to take my time and swirl and clean the brush. So just to recap what we did, we got the corner going in some blue. We got the next to the corner in some teal, and just to show you our inspiration. We got the teal down, and now we're going to take our time to sort of, while the paint is still wet, layer in some white. So here we go. I'm wiping away, making sure no blue is on my brush. And we will introduce some swipes of white. So they're going to be about the same length of these bluish lines. And I'm putting it very globby situation happening. And kind of lining the outside of this with a hefty bit of white. And I'm not going to start with the texture just yet. I'm going to introduce some orange now as well. So we got the white globbed on this section, this section, this section, and just a hair bit around. And now with a decently clean brush, because we don't want to put like a pale orange. We want the orange to stay fairly bright. We're just going to introduce a good strong bit around. So we're swiping some of that orange around the lighthouse. Just like so. So literally scooping this paint into a thick amount and bringing it up till it's almost touching the blue lines. We don't want the orange and blue mixing so much, but we want to get it close. And we're just gonna get that orange in there, and in between this window will be a little bit of that orange. And just kind of stamping a bulk orange around here. This is going to spread a little more once we start our stamping technique. So just really kind of placing the paint where we want it to be and then using our tools to create that texture. So we got the majority, and you'll see it come together once we start putting the texture paper towel on there. So I'm going to rinse out the sponge that I have just a bit. And I still have my little scrunch of a paper towel. I'm just gonna rework it to another little tabby bit. My paint should still be a little bit wet, and we're just gonna kind of bring the white into the blue. So I'm touching the white and kind of stamping it so it comes into the blue. And we're just kind of focusing on the white areas. I'm trying not to touch the blue, the orange for now. So wherever I kind of put the white, I'm working first. Then I'm going to start working in that orange like so. Starting from the orange and then kind of working it into the white. And that's just using the simple paper towel. And then we can kind of create a little more texture with just softly going around. And anywhere that there's little bulges of color, softening it up with this little sponge. But again, you can just take another little piece of smaller paper towel and manipulate your corners. Do the same thing. So you can always just take a new little piece. You see how it kind of feathers off where I ripped it. And you can just do the same that the sponge can do. And there, for the most part, you have your glowing, misty, kind of lighthouse background. So the sponge isn't going away and the paper towel isn't going away just yet. Again, this is our inspiration. We're going to use it now around the rock towards the bottom. So we're going to pretend that those rocks are catching some good waves splashing across. So let's get the water pretty. With our angled brush, we're going to come in, clean it really well. So back to our angled brush. And just a recap of what we did. We sketched our lighthouse. We focused on creating the sky with several colors, starting off in the corner with that navy blue. We introduced, almost like in the letter E kind of shape, that turquoise bit. Again, using paper towel to create the texture. We introduced a bit of white in between the two. And then we introduced a glow of orange and created some window glow around the lighthouse. And then now we're going to be working on the water. So the water is going to be shaded with a dark line. Then it's going to be like a teal, softer color, some white highlights, and then back to dark. So we're going to go dark, light, dark. So I'm going to take that clean angled brush. I'm going to use the point to kind of line up at the edge. Doesn't have to be a perfect horizon line, but you want to get as close to the edge as possible. And we're going to be working with left to right strokes. So again, just getting as close to the rock formations with this dark blue and coming down about 1 to 2 fingers before we switch it up with some turquoise. So I jumped in, didn't clean my brush at all, left that little bit of navy blue still on there. And I just took some of that lighter turquoise blue and I'm almost creating like a little light stripe. So I didn't clean my brush. I'm just getting that greenish hue filled in and pulled across. Not giving the paintbrush a lot of pressure, just like sweeping across in big long strokes. Then I'm gonna hop in with this teal Again, I'm not cleaning my brush at all. I have a little of that navy blue trailing in and out. I'm just gonna get into a little tip of white. Literally just the tip, a little white. I'm gonna bring that across. Just like so. Softly brushing across. And back to dark. No cleaning of the brush whatsoever. Just letting all those colors kind of melt and clean off and swipe across this bottom. And you can play with it by adding some more white. And I'm just smoothly swiping with the brush kind of flattened and just kind of moving through the whole thing, just so it looks very smooth and blended. And then I'm going to come in just with, again, the tip of the brush getting some white, and then just softly brushing across, adding some of that white highlight. So just softly bringing that little bit of color. I'm barely touching. I'm almost daring the brush not to touch the canvas when I'm putting in that little bit of white. And it's like a wisp across. So again, we did the dark navy blue, put a good chunk on there. Then we moved into that little bit of teal. Without cleaning the brush, got some teal going on there. Then we had just a little bit of plain white with the tip of the brush, just like that, some white blending out right after. And then back to that dark navy blue. So you see the sky inspiration that we have so far. And then now you see what we have going on right now. So we're coming right along, believe it or not. We are literally at the halfway point. We're almost done. And it's looking so far so good. So now I'm just going to come back into the sky and work on adding a little bit of white. Our background for the sky should have dried a little bit. So we're going to come in with a fresh torn piece of tissue. You definitely need some tissue for this. And I'm going to swipe on a couple more globs of that white. Just like so. And again, just reworking that into the background like so. Just giving that next level of blending. So starting off with just the white and the blue blending, and then kind of trickling that orange up. And you get that effect. And then next, we'll be doing the similar thing at the bottom. So this is going to get the splash at the bottom. So we definitely need to start filling in the black stone effect that's happening here. So I'm going to clean the brush and move into some black now. So the angled brush, I'm gonna get a good clean after we've added that second layer of white in the sky. We're gonna get into a little bit of black. And just like so, just use that angle to work the jagged cliff up like so. And then just pull the paint down almost at an angle to give the illusion that it's a little bit rocky. So pulling that stuff at an angle down at the center now at an angle. And then pulling that corner edge, pressing it in and pulling it up. Just like so. And similar with this corner, we're coming, just so you can see the bottom. We have that coming into play in the corner here. And the good part about paint is that you have the guidelines from the sketch marks, but the paint ultimately makes the final choice for you. So if your drawing is not perfect, it's really just there to steer you in the right direction. You can always make an edit of what you want where. The paint has the final say. So if you drew a sketch and you know with the paintbrush you can correct it, go ahead and do so. And I'm just pulling this paint in at an angle with that rock formation kind of look. So we got the edge, kind of rough and imperfect, kind of wiggly. And then here we are pulling at an angle to give it that rock look. Rocks are done. Rocks are fabulous. Gonna switch to our little liner brush. Got a nice little liner brush here. And it's gonna do some heavy lifting too. I'm gonna start with some outlining of the details at the top of the lighthouse here. And I'm gonna use my pinky to kind of stabilize what I'm doing. So I got my brush is a little wet. I'm gonna just stamp, press, and absorb that little drippy mistake there. And I come in with a less wet brush and just start the retracing here at the top. Like so. Again, if you weren't like me and you made a nice short lighthouse, you'd have an antenna on top. I'm coming with a rounded dome. The inspiration has a triangular dome. You can do what you want. I personally have only visited 2 lighthouses in my life. So is it necessarily accurate? I don't know. But if you can let me know, that'd be awesome. This is just a representation of an artistic idea. We got the dome done. Then we're going to come down and create a viewing window. This is the top part where you would stand and the light would shine through. And the people who lived in the lighthouse would look out of. And then again, this next area is going to be a little bit further out. So it's another instance where we drew a sketch, but we're going to edit with paint. So it's going to be a little bit further out than this top part, but less than the lighthouse itself. So we're just going to fill this whole square with some black and then highlight it with some white. All right. And then we'll go ahead, make that angled line out like so. And fill that in. And then we'll come in and fill in our lovely little lighthouse window. Take our sweet time while we redraw it. just like so. So we're getting there. It's looking like we're almost done, but there are still several steps that we have to take to really make these details work. Okay. Next, get into some of this dark blue. Let's have a dark blue door downstairs. Why not? Add to the interest of the picture. All right. So we're going to give that some time to dry before we come in and do another layer. So you see with the paint, it created some imperfections on either side of the lighthouse. We want to make that nice, crisp, and clean. We're going to give it some more time to dry. So while we do that, we're going to work on layering some more on our background. So this should have been dried. Again, trusty little paper here. Going to reconfigure our area that we're using. We're going to take up some paint. So with our 1/4-inch brush, we're going to layer some more in the background. So nice clean brush. I'm going to take my time cleaning this brush. And this will be the last layer on this area of the sky. So again, just kind of clumping some white up in these sections. And taking a trusty paper towel and moving it up into the blue. Because we want that blue to kind of peek up through the back. But we don't want it too much. And then again, taking that orange bit and moving it in there. And then a little more right here. So using my brush to kind of pinpoint exactly where I want to have that highlighted white bit. Clean my brush a little better. And a little of that white. And then just spread it out with that stamping technique. Work it such like that. And then finally, just another little revamp of orange to really give that sunsetty glow happening around the lighthouse. So again, just gonna kind of concentrate it in the corner here. And in the corner here. And then the paper towel will do all the work. Just kind of bringing it up. Another way to do this technique, which would be to get like little sea sponges they sell on Amazon or at the dollar store. But paper towels do a great job also. And then these style stamping brushes do a great job of buffering too. The paper towels will give you a bigger texture looking, and these will smooth it out to have smaller blended pigments in between. And I like the way that's looking so far. So that looks good to me. I'm going to come back in now with some white and clean up with my 1/4-inch brush. I'm going to clean up the lighthouse edges and make them look crispy clean. And I'm going to do it with my 1/4-inch flat brush. nice and clean so it doesn't have an orange tinge. So I'm circling and tapping in my cup and then drying off with the paper towel. And I'm swiping across my white just to load the brush. I'm doing a tester bit on the side because I don't want it too messy. And then I'm going to use my pinky to stabilize my wrist. So when I come down, I'm not wibbly wobbly. My line stays straight. And again, pinky down on a clean space. You don't want to put it in a wet part. I'm just going to continue to reload my brush. And just using the tip of this angled brush to really clean this edge of the lighthouse. Like so. And pulling off any paint that bubbled up. Now same for the other side. And put my pinky. Stabilize somewhere that it's not wet. And then I'm going to go in and pull the white. Reload the brush. And just pull the white. Getting as close to the drawn line as possible. Sometimes even going over the line. Just to really give it that clean looking edge. And then smoothing out towards the center. And there, that looks a lot cleaner. You could also do the reverse, where you take your liner brush, like so, clean it off well, and into some orange you would go. And then get that reverse cleaning happened with some orange. My brush was too wet. So re-dip. And take some orange to clean up on the outside too. And you can do that for all the rocky edges. You can do it here where the lighthouse meets. And again, to stabilize your pinky, you want to touch it onto the part of the painting that isn't wet so you don't put paint all over. And then, or I personally am leaning my wrist against the edge of my desk. And you can just come in and reverse, clean any of your edges. Getting that little corner there. Lovely. So now the black is almost done drying. We're gonna go ahead and do the highlights first because we really want this black. You can see in our inspiration. We want the black dry because we want to have that mist from the waves crashing up stamped in here. And we don't want it to mix to be gray. So we're going to take our time letting that dry fully and completely. So what we need to work on is the highlight there and some white. I'm going to refill on some white, and then we're going to do the top of the lighthouse little highlights. And then the pièce de résistance. And we will do the mist on the rocks. Sign the painting. So thank you for hanging in there. We are almost done. Exciting, I know. Little liner brush, little bit of white pulling in and loading the brush by swiping it across, scooped and swiped. A little tester spot. Sometimes I even twist it to a point so it has a nice edge to work with. And I'm just going to come in and just create like a little highlight line and then just start pulling that white across, starting from the line, going towards the center. Highlight section number 1. Highlight section number 2 is literally just inside that black rectangle we drew, creating another set of rectangles or squares rather. And we're going to do a set of 3. So basically this empty space gets a line. And then similar to the top, we're going to come in here. Well, we might have to do it when it's a little more dry. Yeah. We're getting some gray action here, so we're going to have to layer it again. But once it's completely dry, you start off with an angled line, like so. And just pull some white straight across, going towards the center. Just like that. I'm going to go into some of this blue and make the corners crispy. And a little more square happening. There we go. And then sometimes you just quicken the drawing. I'm just going to press into that little bit of black. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just going to get a little mist of white. Because I just don't want it to make it gray. It's just a little bit of a bulgy line happening. So I just want to dry up that corner a little bit. And then the rocks are looking a little opaque for me. So I'm going to just do a second layer of this rock on the left. Because I don't really want to see the streaks. It's very streaky. Just want to come in with a little bit of black. I'm just going to layer on another little bit. So, and then last but not least, we're not going to use the brush to put the paint in. We're just going to do a little tester bit. So last time we're tearing a little piece of paper towel. We're going to go directly into the white paint now and do a little tester bit. So paint is on the paper towel. And now we're going to test it. So you should see that effect that you're looking for happening on your tester bit. So that little mist that's happening, you're looking at your tester bit and it's already happening. Otherwise, if you just go directly onto the painting with your glob like this, it just doesn't give the same effect and it looks too messy. So we're just going to do a little tester bit. It looks good. And we're just going to work our way around the black here. So it's not necessarily completely touching the black, but working away around, creating the illusion that this wave was so misty and splashy that it just rocked the whole edge of this little lighthouse here. And it's just getting that mist happening. No special tools required other than a little paper towel. And we're going to work our way all around this top rock formation. Now, if you want to get creative and put more mist on more rocks, put the mist higher up, further out, totally up to you. But I consider this masterpiece complete. And with all our masterpieces that we make here, you're going to take a little liner brush, dry it off, twist to a point, find a cool little corner of your painting, and sign her. And your work of art is officially complete. Thank you so much. This was our inspiration. And then this is what we had going on today.